Super Mario 64 DS, one of my and many other people's favorite game of all time. A bigger and better version of the original Nintendo 64 classic, Super Mario 64 DS became a clear winner in the handheld universe. But like all other games, Super Mario 64 was once under development, and like all games that were under development, a lot of things were changed and removed. So today I'm gonna talk about the beta of Super Mario 64 DS. Super Mario 64 DS was first revealed at E3 2004, and this time it was called Super Mario 64 X4 or times 4. This was most likely because it had 4-player multiplayer, or that it had 4 playable characters. Previously, Super Mario 64 DS or Super Mario 64 times 4 was highly focused on the multiplayer. Looking at these early screenshots from E3 2004, where people were able to play the game as well, we can see that our 4 characters have the wing cap flying around outside of the castle, and where, the multiplayer features were highly included. In this picture right here, we can see all 4 players flying around with a wing cap, which is weird because in the final version, Mario is the only character who can have the wing cap on. Looking at the touchscreen, we can also see that the heads-up display looks a lot different than it do in the final version. Here we can also see a picture of our 4 characters in Bob-omb Battlefield, and here we can see our 4 characters fighting Bowser in an unknown room. It is said in the beta of Super Mario 64 DS, the goal in the multiplayer version was to either cooperate or work against the other players in order to get the stars in the levels. If this was the case in the real game as well, that is unknown, but if it was, that means that Super Mario 64 DS might have been planned to be more of a minigame more than an adventure game like it turned out to be. It is also said that the frame rate of the beta version was slightly higher than in the final game. Also, reviews of the beta tells us that in a single player version you were actually able to switch between the characters by simply touching the touchscreen, while in the final game you have to unlock them and go to a specific room to change the character you want to play as. This picture here also shows the beta design of the red coins. As for the Bowser pictures I talked about, it's unsure if this is actually in an adventure mode, like a multiplayer adventure mode, or if this is just like a template or a default boss room, where, there was just a simple multiplayer boss fight where you could work against Bowser, because the room doesn't really look like where designed is just a simple square room or rectangular room, so it is believed that this Bowser fight you can see here is basically like a mini game in the multiplayer version. And talking more about switching characters, using an action replay you can play in the test level, and in the test level you can find these caps boxes. These caps boxes are like your red and red, green and yellow boxes with an M, an L and a W on it, where if you destroy them you will get the cap. And these were most likely the way to change the characters maybe before you unlock them in the beta version, because they are not represented in the final game. This picture here also shows an early box art design for the game. It is very similar to the final release, but you can see that the picture is a bit different. You can see that the characters have a bit different pose than they have in the final version of the box art. So we do have kind of an idea how the multiplayer was supposed to be, but we don't really have any much information about the single player. We do have this picture here though, that is actually seen in the game's manual. I've talked about this before in my Waluigi videos. It's a picture of a purple bunny that may indicate that Waluigi was a playable character, or it could be maybe a beta color of Wario's rabbits, or it could be just a graphical error, we are not sure. In the game's coding, we can also find fully functional red Koopa Troopas, while in the final game we can only see green ones. These red ones would attack player by dashing into them, similar to these bullies. And these red Koopas wouldn't panic when they landed on their back, so these red Koopas was most likely more aggressive and or dangerous and more controlled than the green Koopas were. Also, when killing a red Koopa you could get his shell and knock it around the ground, and it would slide and kill everything in its path until it hit a wall or something, and then it would just break. Also, when Yoshi eats a red Koopa, he can actually spit fire, and this is weird because spitting fire is Yoshi's power flower ability. So this might have been like what the Yoshi would do before power flowers were implemented. Maybe the characters had to do something special to get their abilities before power flowers were implemented. Also, using an action replay code to go into Wario's painting using Yoshi and fighting Chief Chili, something weird will happen. Normally, it's not possible to enter Wario's painting using Yoshi, because you have to use Luigi and get Power Flower and get invisible in order to enter the mirror where Wario's painting is located. While in Wario's level, however, you can grab a Wario cap and a Mario cap, and when you fight Chief Chili, he will say something different for each character. However, we never knew what he would say if we fought as Yoshi, because Yoshi can't fight him. But using an action replay and getting to that boss battle using Yoshi, Chief Chili will say the following line. I see you have no mustache. Poor bald little creature. It's not a fair fight for you, but luckily I'm not a fair fighter. Let's go. And if Yoshi beats Chief Chili, he will say, I simply cannot believe that I lost to a hairless pig squeak like you. My mustache was my only joy. Now what I'm going to do? This could indicate that Yoshi was going to be able to enter Wario's painting, so maybe Wario's painting was moved into the mirror afterwards, or maybe Chief Chili wasn't supposed to be a Wario boss battle after all. And that is all the beta elements I found for Super Mario 64 DS. What do you think of the beta? It's pretty a shame that Nintendo removed these cool multiplayer features, as the Final Games multiplayer is a bit dull. I don't really like the multiplayer feature in Mario 64 DS. It's super that they have a multiplayer after all, but it gets boring pretty quickly. And the multiplayer in the beta version looked very interesting, to like cooperate in the levels and even fight Bowser together. So what do you think of the beta of Super Mario 64 DS, and do you know anything else? Please post a comment in the comment section below, and make sure to leave a like rating if you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys later. Cheers!